This video is the first video on simultaneous equations. A solution to a set of simultaneous equations needs to satisfy both equations at the same time. So what we are doing, we have two different equations and we're wanting to know when are they equal to each other. The first method we're going to use to solve this is a graphical solution. What we need to do this is draw the graph of both equations on the same set of axes. Any point of intersection corresponds to a solution. Now we have different possible solutions. So we have one solution, which is where it intersects once. No solution is where the lines are parallel, so they will never intersect. And they also have infinitely many solutions, which is when the equations are actually the same line or the same equation. Do one example here with an A and a B. Part B is just going to be done using the calculator, and A will be done graphically by hand because you may need to do both. So for the first one, what you want to do when you're graphing these is you want to find two common points for each equation so you can draw the line easily and then see where they intersect. For y equals 2x plus 1, I always like to first of all just do when x equals 0, as that makes it really easy to work out. We'll have y equals 2 times 0 plus 1, which is just 1. So our coordinates for that point would be 0, 1. The next point I am going to do is when x equals 3. You can pick any values for x for these. I would recommend maybe not doing them so close together, for example 0 and 1, because when you're then trying to join the points, you may not get the line as perfect as it could be. So have a little bit of a gap. You're just going to be a bit more exact that way when you join your line. So if x equals 3, then our y would equal 2 times 3 plus 1, which equals 7. So that's going to be for our first line. And then I'm going to do the same for the second line. And then we can draw both the lines on our graph. So now for y equals negative 3x plus 11, I'm just going to do the same numbers because it's easier. So when x equals 0, y would equal negative 3 times 0 plus 11, which is just 11. So then this time, why not? Let's do something different. So let's do when x equals 2. So I would equal negative 3 times 2 plus 11, which would equal 5. So I have some axes here, and we're going to plot these points. So sorry, here we'd also, this point would be 3, 7. And then our 2 points for the second line would be 0, 11, and 2, 5. Right, let's start with the pink line first. So we have 0, 1, which will be about here. And I have 3, 7, which will be about here. And then I can draw a straight line through that. So obviously, when you do this, use a ruler so it can be as perfect as possible. So the first line will look something along those lines, and then the second line, our 2 points are 0, 11, and 2, 5, and then we can join those dots. Now once we've done that, we're going to look for our intersection, which we see is here, which is circled it, and we look for the coordinates for that point, which are 2, 5. So the solution to this simultaneous equation is when x equals 2 and y equals 5. And that's solving by graphing. Question B, I'm going to show you how to do this one, but I'm going to use your graphics calculator. Now when we're graphing on our calculators, we need to go to the graph function. So you can either go to the scratchpad graph, or you can go to the graph symbol at the bottom. When it opens up your graphing software, you'll see at the top here, it's got where we're going to enter our equation. So we have our two equations, which were y equals 2x plus 7, and our second one that we've rearranged, which is y equals 5 on 2 minus x on 2. So we just have to enter each of those separately. So you don't need to write the y equals because this F1 brackets x kind of represents the y. So we just need to type in the 2x plus 7. If you press enter, it will graph for us. Now if you press the tab button on your calculator, which is above the control button, it will then bring up a new equation editor at the top. And we want to put in our second equation, which is 5 on 2 minus x on 2. Now you can write minus a half x, or you can write minus x on 2, your choice, they are the same thing, and press enter, and it graphs that one. So you see here now we have our two lines graphed, and we want to find this point in the middle where they intersect. Now to do that, you need to press Menu, go to Analyze Graph, and then you have number 4, which says intersection. So your calculator will search for where your graphs intersect. So click on that one. Then just like with graphing and finding x-intercepts, you just get this dotted line, and you just need to press either side of the intersection, and then it will bring up the coordinates of that intersection. So for this one, our solution is when x equals negative 1.8 and our y equals 3.4. And that's how you solve things graphically. Now, if you find when you're graphing them, you can't see the intersection point, you may need to zoom out. And you can zoom out by pressing Menu, Window Zoom, and then you have window settings, so you can change the settings in there, or you can just press zoom out, and then just click where you want to zoom out, and it will zoom out for you. Now, the other way to solve simultaneous equations on your calculator, which you'll probably use later on, not in this section of the textbook and your questions, but if you just go back to home and go to the calculator page. Now on here, if we once again go to Menu, and just where the polyroots was, so in algebra, but if we go to number 2 now rather than number 3, we get solve system of linear equations. In here, how many equations do we have? So we've got 2 equations, and our variables are x and y, so we leave them as they are and press OK. Now in here we just put our equations. So you see it's got that big curly bracket just like the textbook had, and we can input our equations. So we've got, this time we do need to write the y equals. So y equals 2x plus 7. Now in here it doesn't matter if our equations are rearranged or not. So we could, if we wanted to, write it as we had the other equation, which was 2y plus x equals 5. If you wanted to put the rearrange way in, you can do it, doesn't matter. Press enter then, and it gives our solution. So you see here our solutions is fractions. Our last one, on the graph, it gave it as a decimal, and that is fine, it doesn't matter. You can here change things to a decimal. So if you press Menu, and if you go to number, convert to decimal is number 1. Just click that, and we'll go answer to decimal, press enter, and there we are, it will convert it for you. So as you can see there, we have the same solution of negative 1.8 and 3.4. So remember, it's always x and y. If you see here in the original equation, the lin solve, it has x, y. So when it gives our solution, it gives it in the order of x, y. And that's how you solve simultaneous equations on your calculator.